This video is a little bit different because today we're going to be talking about lore and what hypes me up to play Dark Angels and Space Marines. So I wanted to do something a little bit different with this video because we're all getting excited about learning and playing 11th edition, and I know that I'm absolutely loving it, but also I wanted to take a minute to talk about why I absolutely love playing both Dark Angels and Space Marines in general, and that ultimately comes down to the lore. Now, I love playing competitively. It is still probably my favorite thing to do when it comes to Warhammer. However, when I go out for a walk, when I just going on the train, trying to get to tournaments, everything like that, I always have a 40k audiobook on in the background, and I absolutely love it. Some of the books have been incredible, and obviously there's a few maybe less good books, but that's just the nature of writing. There's some that fill my little imperial heart with joy, and I wanted to share that with you to see if I can get you extra hyped up for those Space Marines, for those Dark Angels, and understand why I want to get the Sons of the First or any of the other legions on the table and just start bullying people with them, because quite frankly there is nothing better than seeing your Primarch or your chapter beating the ever-living daylights out of an opposing species, especially when it's orcs. There is quite a theme when it comes to the books that I'm going to suggest here. But also it's quite a nice little tie into Armageddon because some of these are quite related to Armageddon. So without further ado, let's jump in to the first one, and that is Mike Brooks' Son of the Forest. Now, this was when the Lion first came out of retirement. It is the introduction of the Primarch of the First Legion to the 40k universe, and he comes out old. But critically for me, he comes out changed. Most of it is told from the perspective and narrated by Zabriel, one of the fallen, who then is found by the Lion. And I love the little subplot here of one of the most deadly beings in the entire galaxy, possibly the most deadly being in the entire galaxy, turning up on a backwater planet that's just been taken over by chaos and joining the resistance. That part spoke to me so much, and like a particular section of that around the Lion's Guard, where why on earth would the Lion need a bodyguard of humans considering he's, the Lion? But he still accepted it because he didn't want to hurt their feelings. And that this massive change from the 30k Lion to the 40k Lion is beautiful, in my opinion. I absolutely love it. He is turned into this more wise, caring, humane character. And I think just that kind of those edges have been knocked off of him from the Horus Heresy. And there's some really nice interactions that he has with Zabriel in particular, especially right at the start of their relationship, that kind of shows why that softness starts coming out. And I think it's age that has softened him. But equally, what I really liked was seeing the fallen and their reaction to seeing their father. Having to kind of work through the idea that you thought you were betrayed, but what you always fought for now hates you, and you've been spat out from the warp storm into an age that you just don't understand, but everyone's hunting you down and trying to kill you. And you might be able to find some brothers. You're probably on your own for most of it, though. That's a tough prospect. And as someone that has felt like that before, obviously not to that extent or in that context, but felt very lost, that really spoke to me. And I think that's partly why I've always loved Dark Angels. It's that kind of, yes, we want to be brave, we want to be proud, we want to be strong, but under the surface there is a weakness. And that is partly, I think, what makes them so special as a faction to me, that there is something that's eating away at them inside. And I think that that's fundamentally human. And I think when we're looking at these characters that aren't really human, finding that humanity as part of it is the thing that really makes me tick. And I mean, you can see why I started playing Salamanders, right? But this is the kind of thing that I think really speaks to me on a lore level. So if that's the kind of thing that speaks to you, this is probably going to be the video for you in terms of the other books that I'm going to look at. But I thought Mike Brooks really brought the character to life. I loved the way that they were doing the battle scenes. I loved the sort of the lion's journey through what ultimately would have been like kind of a skirmish in his experience, but actually it is a massive fight for life, limb, and their entire universe for the people that are in that situation, particularly the humans. And seeing him kind of build what he's able to build through that journey was just incredible. But then also seeing the other side of it from the fallen that have actually fallen and that do now serve chaos, seeing why maybe they still actually hate chaos, but they'll work with them because they have no other choice, all that kind of stuff. I thought it was just a really well done story. And I thought it teed it up perfectly to then have the lion burst out of the forest, going straight up against Angron, just as Dante and all of his sanguinary guard are sort of put to the sword. It looks like Dante is about to get butchered. This is not part of Son of the Forest as well, don't worry, this is not a spoiler. And Dante is saved by the lion as part of that final Arcs of Omen series that was kind of overshadowed a little bit by 10th edition releasing. So if you haven't heard that story about how the lion comes in and beats the ever-living crap out of Angron, go back and have a listen. It is well worth it. But Son of the Forest is the first one. It really made me fall in love with the character of the lion, and it showed me that kind of, yes, you can be proud, yes, you can be strong and brutal, but you can also have a humane softness to you. And I really like that character development with the lion because, to be honest, 30k lion was a bit of an arsehole. He was a cool arsehole, but he was still a bit of an arsehole. In Son of the Forest, that age has kind of changed him to become this protector and just an all-round better character, in my opinion. So, Son of the Forest, if you've not, and you are a Dark Angels fan, this is a must listen. The next book is actually a slightly older one, and that is the Purging of Kadillus. This is from the series, I think it's called Space Marine Legends, where it's loads of different kind of famous Space Marine battles and victories, or in fact losses, of course, where we get to take a slightly closer look at those conflicts. Now, the Purging of Kadillus is set on shock horror Kadillus. It is just after the second War for Armageddon, so Ghazghkull's first invasion, and Belial is looking to hunt down Ghazghkull. Ghazghkull has kind of formed this impromptu alliance with Nazdrag from the not the Blood Moons, the yellow dudes, those ones. Yeah, he's formed an alliance with them, stupid, teethy, rich boys. And they've sort of given him this new technology where they're Bad Moons, that's the one, where they can teleport to places. And it follows a few different characters. There is a chaplain, there is a veteran scout sergeant, there is, of course, Belial. And there's a few brief bits with humans as well. And of course, the chaplain is completely badass. He is just the epitome of what an interrogator chaplain should be, going around purging everything in front of him. He is brutal, he is proud, he fights like a demon, and that character is freaking awesome. But to be honest, my favorite part of this book was the interaction between the scouts and the Ravenwing bikers. So this is all from Naaman's perspective, and it puts them in a really difficult situation where the orcs have kind of stolen an advance on a particular area that they weren't expecting. And now these very underprepared units kind of need to sort that out, get back and tell the rest of the Dark Angels what is going on. Naaman is just an overall fantastic character. And the way that he is written, he is so damn badass. I won't give you any spoilers on that particular bit, but Naaman does make it home. So once Naaman's home, he goes out on another mission, and this one's in conjunction with Belial to go and find one of these teleporters. And it is very cool what goes on in that particular scene. You can just imagine these Deathwing Terminators just appearing out of nowhere to save these scouts and brutally deal with all of the orcs in front of them. And it's a very poignant, very powerful moment, which is preluded by Naaman asking a random guardsman his name and having a conversation with him, which sticks in the guardsman's mind. And the final chapters of the book is told from that guardsman's perspective. And in all honesty, it shows everything that I would want from that relationship between dark angels and humans. And it really does explain the relationship that the lion kind of develops, because it shows that it was there the whole time for me. That actually they do care about who's around them, and they do want to be that kind of brave protector, but they'll still stand up for the humans that are around them. I know, obviously, a lot of the time the law focuses on, oh, we need to protect our secret. We need to protect the fact that there are fallen that exist. No one can know. We have to be secretive. We have to do X, Y, Z. But when they're actually able to just be the Imperium's best, they come into their own. And I think it probably brings in one of the most powerful moments of any of these books, where guardsmen follow in the example of their space marines, even though they're terrified, and they follow the Dark Angels into a charge, screaming for the Emperor. And it is just the most epic scene that you could imagine. Imagine the line's about to break, everything's going wrong, the Dark Angels are starting to go down, but then the guardsmen, they inspire, push forward. It's so beautiful. I thought the Purging of Kadillus was fantastic. It's told from so many interesting different perspectives, but we also find out what Ghazghkull's getting up to after that defeat on Armageddon, which I think ties in really nicely to then going into the Third War, but also then going forward into the current timeline where Ghazghkull is back on Armageddon. I honestly cannot recommend this book enough. It is one of my favorites, especially if you listen to the audiobook version. I think that one was very, very good, especially the way that they kind of narrate Naaman's journey. That was next level for me. So definitely check out Purging of Kadillus. It's pre The Lion, so it's Belial. I think this is before he becomes the master of the Deathwing. I think this is when he's still just a captain, but it's a really damn good story, and I think it gives a lot more credence to the Dark Angel's relationships with humans, which again is something that really appeals to me as a reader. So jumping to a non-Dark Angel book, we're going all the way to Rynn's World. Now, Rynn's World is a very old book, but in my opinion, it is still very much standing up the test of time, which is also kind of complimentary of the fact that the Pedro Kantor model on screen currently is as old as anything, and definitely needs an update. And I'm hoping that the image you see below of Crimson Fists on Armageddon, I'm hoping that that implies that we are going to get a new Pedro Kantor. So as you can probably guess, Pedro Kantor features very heavily. Now, Rynn's World is the home world for the Crimson Fists, and they are responding to a war in the sector. And it's kind of all about that journey that they take, where the War realizes that Rynn's World is close. And they go, well, that's going to be a hell of a fight, so let's go and invade. Then something goes horribly wrong at the Fortress Monastery. So suddenly everything is thrown into disarray. But we still critically get this exceptional relationship between Pedro Kantor and Captain Cortez. And I think it also it leads into probably one of the best lines in 40k fiction, full stop, where Captain Cortez has been fighting against Morton. This is a slight spoiler, so skip this if you don't want to hear it. Captain Cortez has just been fighting an orc boss. Everyone thinks he's dead because when the orc boss arrives back into the story, he lobs an arm, which has clearly been Cortez's, at the rest of the Space Marines, and then suddenly Cortez appears out of nowhere and manages to strangle the orc to death with his legs. And Pedro then goes, of course, Cortez, you can't go any further. You've lost your arm. Cortez turns around and goes, no, I haven't. It's over there. And that is the best line, in my opinion, in 40k fiction, full stop. It's just that kind of tension-cutting, almost ridiculousness of the sentiment, but it fits with Cortez's character so well. He is a real maverick, and I love the kind of Kantor is his friend, and they've always worked together when they've been rising up through the ranks, but now Kantor's his boss at the same time, and that dynamic is different. Cortez can't be this loose cannon, especially when there's so few of them left. But I think really interestingly, and very different to the lore that we get at the moment, the orcs are portrayed in a very different light. There is possibly one of the sadder and more brutal scenes in a 40k book that I've read, particularly pertaining to how orcs behave. Usually they're kind of these kind of comedy cockney characters, but actually they are essentially torturing a farmer in front of his entire family, and it is brutal and it incenses Cortez. And that kind of, again, desire to protect, and all of these sudden human interactions between the refugees and the last surviving Imperial Fists, even though the Imperial Fists know that to support these refugees might mean curtains for them, their chapter, and their homeworld, they're still willing to do it. And then, in all honesty, the last kind of battle in Rynn's world is one of my favorites, full stop. It is class, really, really good, proper slobber knocker battle, where you see Cortez, you see Kantor, you see first company Terminators really come into their own. There's some great stuff with some dreadnoughts as well earlier on in the book when they're defending New Rynn City. Overall, it's just a fantastic book. If you've not read it, absolutely go and do. It will make you want to start a Crimson Fists army, because Pedro Kantor and Cortez are just so awesome. But I love this book. It was one of the better written books, I would say. Really very enjoyable, but also, again, very human. The relationship between these superhumans and the refugees is one that really resonated with me. And I love seeing the humanity in the Emperor's Finest. I think that's something that kind of a lot of the time we do overlook, because the whole point of it was they're more than human. But actually seeing them have that moment where they kind of go back and they don't keep thinking like just the end justifies the means, we have to do this because there's worse things out there. No, it takes that minute, and there's a couple of really beautiful scenes, particularly between Kantor and a refugee mother, that I think just really take the biscuit in terms of just kind of humanizing these Space Marines, because we will see them kicking the daylights out of these orcs, and they are very badass. I mean, Kantor slaughters some orcs in this. He really goes ham, and there's brilliant battle scenes and everything like that, but like those quiet moments really make the book. And of course, what lore video would be complete without mentioning one of the best battles for Armageddon, the battle for Helsreach Hive. So we are in the third war for Armageddon at this point. Hades Hive is old news. We know exactly what's going to happen to it. Ghazghkull's going to bomb it. And Yarrick is well aware of that, so he doesn't want to defend Hades this time. So instead, he selects a few different hives in the area for defense, and one of those is Helsreach. Now, the Black Templars are in charge of the naval battle that's going on above Armageddon. And they're overall leading the entire thing, with Helbrecht as the commander-in-chief for everything that's going on there. However, Helsreach is where he sends his Reclusiarch, Grimaldus. And Grimaldus has only just been made Reclusiarch after the sudden death of Mordred. Mordred was kind of his mentor, and no one really knows how he dies. So it's quite a melancholic moment for Grimaldus, because he realizes that even if you are this epic hero, you can just die silently in the dirt. And Grimaldus is convinced that he is going to die at Helsreach. I mean, it opens with Grimaldus thinking, this is it for me. I'm going to die in this battle. But there's so many fantastic moments, and like this one really has it all. It has Titans, it has Space Marines, it has the Steel Legion of Armageddon, it has conscripts standing up to one of the most badass naval invasions that I have ever seen in a 40k book. But not only that, it also has the salamanders dropping in to save the day briefly, but still save the day. It is an incredible book with so many different dynamic actions, so many different characters that you can connect to, from the Steel Legion stormtroopers that end up sort of serving with and training these conscripts, particularly brilliant characters, to the Aeronautica pilots that have to go in and try and stunt the original push by the Orcs and take out some of their air support and their Titans and selling their lives incredibly expensively. And then, of course, you get Grimaldus. And if you know the Grimaldus model, you will know that he is carrying the relics of the Temple Ascendant. Now, if you do read Helsreach, you will find out what happens at the Temple of the Emperor Ascendant. But it is probably the most epic battle scene in all like modern 40k I think that I've read. It's definitely up there, if not the best. And if you listen to the audiobook, you will never get Nereva out of your head, because it hits different every single time you hear that. And Games Workshop went to that next level and actually created the model Bayard's Revenge, which is a homage to the Emperor's Champion of the Battle for Helsreach. An Emperor's Champion, mind, that pushed back against the idea of putting Grimaldus in as the Reclusiarch. But it's an incredibly special book. The kind of consistent thinking that they're going to lose. Again, the Orcs is this kind of unending alien tide of savagery, standing up against that with the Black Templars. There's a particularly poignant bit where it goes through the action quite quickly, to kind of get the scene to reset to where it needs to be, and it's all of the mortis signals from all of the Black Templars that have fallen by that point and how they fell. It's just really quite epic, and as I say, the battle for the Temple of the Emperor Ascendant is next level. It's honestly one of the most brilliant books. I think this one's done by Aaron Dembski-Bowden, and he's definitely one of my favorite authors for 40k. It is just an incredible book. I was overall, it's one of those where you read it and you can't put it down. So definitely, if you've not listened to Helsreach, make sure that you have a listen to that, because it is incredible, and you will again decide to make a Black Templars army. Some other favorites that I've got, now funny enough, I've not actually put it down on here, but The Devastation of Belial is one of the other best books that I've read. I think the Blood Angels depicted in that are fantastic. It is really cool. The consistent battle scenes and everything like that, absolutely class. Definitely go and read that one if you haven't. But I really enjoyed the Uriel Ventress series. I thought that particularly from book 3 onwards, where it introduces the Iron Warriors and the Damonculaba, and the kind of sub-story between the half-breed and Uriel Ventress, I think takes that to the next level. I think that third book is really the pivotal moment, because book 1 is great, seeing basically a Catan, and the kind of the internal politics of the way that world is written, I think was really very good. And in the second book, it's this epic stand against the Tyranids. But I think that third one onwards is really where you get in depth with the characters and you see them at their worst, but also at their best. The Carcharodon series is another really good one. I think Carcharodons are many people's favorites. It's a very different way of reading them, but it's very enjoyable. I was quite impressed with the Carcharodon books. They're about this close to being traitors or renegades, but they're very good. And I loved particularly the last one. that came out quite recently. I thought that was quite cool. Then we got Plague Wars, which is kind of the first big return of Rebute Guilliman and the invasion by the Death Guard of Ultramar, which is obviously it's going to hit pretty close to home for Guilliman. And seeing Guilliman come into his own, I thought was really cool. Explaining the new relationships that Guilliman has and the challenges that he's got. It was really interesting, and I thought overall a really well done series of stories. Knights of Macragge is a fantastic one with Cato Sicarius just after he comes out of being lost in the warp. He's still firstborn at this point, but he does have some Primaris with him. Obviously, the bit inside the warp is brutal, it's desperate, it's all violence all the time, really, even when you don't expect it. And it really does show off just how brutal the warp is, but then a complete change of pace when they come out of the warp and essentially end up on a medieval feudal world and have to explain what a space marine kind of is, but they also can't say, well, there's this whole Imperium thing. But overall, that is a brilliant book. Gaunt's Ghosts is a classic. If you've not read it, it's like one of those that kicked off 40k fiction in general. It's where we get the term Voxcaster, all that kind of stuff. And the ghosts are just brilliantly written. I've been loving every single moment of that. Well, there was a few moments I didn't love, but that was because I was so attached to a particular subset of characters. So there will be moments where you want to put it down and stop reading it. And I did put it down and stop reading it for a long old time because of some of those characters. But it is fantastic. Clivus Cain is probably my most listened to series just because I love that idea of just this guy that's accidentally lucked himself into a certain position, feels a little bit like me, and he doesn't really know what he's doing there, but he's going to try and use it to his advantage and just try and keep being lucky. He's just a fantastic character. And I love the fact that he always sees the worst of himself, but there are so many redeeming qualities to what he does. They're just fantastic. They are comedy gold in so many parts. There's loads of brilliant Easter eggs as well from other sci-fi series and everything like that. Cain is definitely a hero of the Imperium. And then finally, a bit of a rogue one here, but the Super Heavy series about the Imperial Guard. So that is Baneblade and then Shadow Sword. I thought that they were both really cool. Again, Baneblade killing lots of orcs, big tick. And also going up against orc scrap titans. That's awesome. Another thing that Helsreach does very, very well as well. But then Shadow Sword, I really like because it came into its own. It brought in the Emperor's Children. There was a lot of really interesting bits of like how a world could fall to chaos when it was actually just not really intending to. So that's a very good one and well worth a read or well worth a listen. So those are my favorite 40k books and the books that I think you can listen to get hyped as you go in and learn more about Dark Angels, learn more about Space Marines. And I think you should, because it's not all about competitive. Sometimes actually it's learning why you love those characters and learning why it's so awesome to send forth the Legions of the First or send forth the Black Templars to just destroy whatever Xenos threat comes against them. I love it. It's a way that you can be connected with 40k but still unwind and not have to worry about the tactics and all of that stuff that can be difficult at times. And it's just a good way to unwind, get your painting done and relax. I really hope you've enjoyed this one. And if you want to see more lore videos alongside the usual content, obviously we will be, for the most part, still focusing just on competitive Space Marine and Dark Angel content. But I do still love the lore, and I am still a massive lore nerd, so I'm going to talk about it at times. But thank you so much for watching, and remember, most importantly, stay loyal, brothers. We'll see you in the next one.